In this video, we're going to go over what the product rule is and how you can use it to solve problems. Let's jump in. So the first question here is, what is the product rule? Go ahead, pause the video, and see if you can answer that question. Okay, so here's the product rule. Basically, it's a rule that tells you how to take the derivative of a product of functions, hence the name product rule. Specifically, when you know how to take the derivative of each of them individually. So if we know what the derivative of f of x is, and we know what the derivative of g of x is, then if we want to take the derivative of f times g, it would be this. And this is the product rule. It basically says the derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. So that's the rule. And again, it's actually not a big deal if you mix them up. If you mix up f and g, you actually still get it right if you think about it because it's symmetrical. So there you go. That's the whole point. And basically, we can, with this, if you think about it, if you already know a lot of functions, this allows us to take the derivative, or if you already know the derivatives of many separate functions, basically what this allows you to do is to take the derivatives of all of their combinations, specifically when they're being multiplied. And that's very powerful. So it increases the amount of functions we can take the derivative of by a lot. Now that you know what the product rule is, let's actually see how to apply it. So let's say you have a function x squared times sine of x, and you want to find the derivative of it. Go ahead and pause the video and think about how you would do that. Try to work that out with the product rule that we just talked about. The best way to do the product rule, if you don't feel super confident, is to literally write these two next to each other and kind of pattern match. So here, if this is the product rule, basically our job is to identify what do we want to call f, what do we want to call g. Hopefully it makes sense that you can call f x squared just by seeing seeing what goes in the same spot, and you can replace g with sine of x. So if that's really true, if we're saying that f of x is equal to x squared and g of x is equal to sine of x, then we can essentially use these to place the right functions where they should go. Now, the first thing, if you look over here, we already know what g is, we already know what f is based on our choice here. What we don't know is f prime and g prime, so we need to find that. So the first thing we'll do actually is we'll find the derivative of f, so f prime of x, think about that. If you already know what the derivative of x squared is by the power rule, hopefully it's clear that that's 2 times x. In this other rule, or this other function, g of x equals sine of x, we also need the derivative of that. Here, you need to remember certain trig derivatives. So remember, what is the derivative of sine of x? Hopefully you recall that it is cosine of x. And if you have this information, then you have everything you need. Because what you can do is you can replace this f prime with 2x. So we're going to have 2x right there. And then g of x we're going to replace with sine of x. And then f of x we're going to replace with x squared. And then g prime of x we're going to replace with cosine of x. Now, we could simplify this a little bit more, arguably. Maybe we could pull out an x from both terms, but fundamentally, this is the right answer. This is the derivative of x squared times sine of x. So there you go. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how you use the product rule. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. Otherwise, I will catch you next time. See you.